It sounds like legend, okay? That's one of the problems. But there's another thing that's much more difficult for historians to swallow. What does the book of Daniel talk about the future? Or what does it say concerning the future?
Oh, it's a prophecy about the sun? Or...
No, not that.
Prophecy about the fall of empires.
There you go. It refers to empires that didn't exist, at least could not have existed, well, did not exist for 200 to 300 years in the future. Daniel was written in the destruction of Babylon was in 539 BC. So the 6th century, or let's put 500 BC. The book of Daniel was written in 500 BC. But it refers to 4 kingdoms. It refers to the Babylonians, which is not prophetic because the Babylonians were there. Daniel was living amongst the Babylonians. It refers to the Persians. That's not prophetic because the Persians were the ones who actually helped destroy Babylon in 539. It actually was Darius the Mede that destroyed under the authority of Cyrus the Great. All right, so the Persians are not prophetic. It's the next 2 kingdoms that are the problem because it refers to the Greeks who don't appear until the 3rd century, and it refers to the Romans who don't appear until the 2nd century. So how could someone living and writing in the 6th century have known about Greeks and Romans that weren't yet to appear for 300 to 400 years later? Can you see why the historians don't like it? So what the historians have done is they've looked and they've looked throughout the book of Daniel to find any historical error. And they found it. They found it with the king, who Daniel considers is the king at that time. And the king that Daniel refers to is Belshazzar. Remember Belshazzar's feast. You have the writing up on the wall. Belshazzar has Daniel come up and read the writing, and he reads it, and as he reads it, he interprets it. And then the king Belshazzar turns to Daniel and does a very curious thing. He says in chapter 5, verse 16, because of what you have done, you'll be number 3 in my kingdom. And that's always been a mystery. Why number 3? Why not number 2 if Belshazzar was number 1? Hold on to that. That's very important. But certainly, we do know that Belshazzar is the name in the book of Daniel for the last of the Babylonian kings. Historians show that that is in error. Belshazzar is not known of. In fact, no one knows who Belshazzar is. If you look at all these artifacts here, look at the artifacts during the Babylonian era, and you will find the last of the Babylonian kings is Nabonidus. Nabonidus is the name that's found in all the artifacts. Herodotus, writing just 100 years later, because Herodotus was living in the 5th century in 400 BC. He's writing about this attack. He's writing about the destruction of Babylon. And he's very clear that the king that was responsible, the king who was destroyed, was Nabonidus. Why is it the book of Daniel uniquely refers to Belshazzar when no one has any reference to this name? There's no reference anywhere. You won't find it here. Look at it. You won't find it anywhere in Herodotus' writing. Only the Bible uniquely refers to Belshazzar. It looks like the historians have us over a barrel. Yep, Lars? Do you have an answer? Bjorn? You're going to have to come up with an answer because it looks like the Bible's in error. Do you have an answer for this? Well, I've got one right here. This little barrel right here. That little barrel unlocks everything. Now that little barrel was discovered in the ziggurat of Ur that we saw a picture of in the next room over there. Remember that huge big ziggurat that I showed you? Until they came across the city of Ur, until they discovered that Ur existed, and until they uncovered that ziggurat, they would have never found this little barrel, because that was found in one of the antechambers of the ziggurat. It is a little barrel. It is a prayer written by Nabonidus. No one doubts that Nabonidus is the last king. That's not in doubt. We know that Nabonidus is the last king. Herodotus tells us that. All the historians tell us that. Thucydides as well says that Nabonidus is the last king, the king that Cyrus the Great destroys in 539 BC. That's not in doubt. But look and see what this little drum says. It's a prayer for the son of Nabonidus, Belshazzar. Read it. This is the only reference to Belshazzar anywhere in the world, and it's right here in the British Museum. Until they found this drum, no one knew who Belshazzar was. He was the son of Nabonidus. But that still doesn't help us. We need to come to this tablet right here. This tablet here was written by Nabonidus, and it mentions for the last 10 years of his life, he goes to Teman in Arabia in semi-retirement. And he leaves the ruling of his kingdom to his son. But it doesn't mention who his son is. You've got to come back to the barrel to find out who the name of the son is. The son's name is Belshazzar, proving that both Nabonidus and Belshazzar were co-regents at that time. Now can you understand when Belshazzar turns to Daniel and says, you will be number 3 in my kingdom, he's referring to he and his father as number 1 and 2. Daniel would be number 3, proving that not only the book of Daniel is correct, Here's what's getting exciting. How is it that the book of Daniel underknows this, but not Herodotus, who's writing 100 years later? To me, that proves that the book of Daniel had to be written in the 6th century. Had to be written at the same time that both Nabonidus and Belshazzar were co-regents. And I'll tell you why, that Herodotus knew nothing about it. No reference to Belshazzar at all with Herodotus or Thucydides, though they were writing only 100 years later. And why did they not write about it? And why did they not know this? Can you guess? There's a good reason why they didn't know about it. Well, it's not that it wasn't common. They should have known about Belshazzar. They should have known that Belshazzar was actually ruling the kingdom when it was destroyed. Why did they know about it? What have we been talking about today? What's going on? What are all these artifacts written for?
The kings write them themselves.
And what do they write about? What is it they do?
Their victories.
Their victories. So these are conquests. Almost everything is written about conquests. Now, what would have happened if Belshazzar went and conquered a city or a kingdom? Who would have got credit for it? His father, because his father was still the number one king. He was basically the superior king. He was the senior king. So any conquest that he would have done would have been done, given credit would be to his father. That's why Belshazzar did no conquering. He did nothing. He was waiting for his father to die. Basically, he was just holding on to his father's kingdom, and he was waiting for his father to die so that he could then go out and conquer and claim it for himself. But since he did no conquering, nothing was written about him. That's why Herodotus and Thucydides knew nothing about Belshazzar. But the book of Daniel does. The book of Daniel is the only piece of archaic literature that gets it right, proving the book of Daniel had to be written in the 6th century. If it's written in the 6th century, can you now see why the historians are having a problem? Because how are they going to explain the reference to the Greeks and the Romans in the 3rd and 2nd century? Now who's over a barrel? Can you see the historians are having a difficult time with the book of Daniel because of these artifacts, because of the fact that they have now been discovered. Now these were just discovered a little over 100 years ago. But here's what gets me excited. Most of the time people, and I get this a lot from Muslims who say that Jesus cannot be God because he refers to himself as the Son of Man. 25 times in the New Testament he refers to himself as the Son of Man, proving they say he's just a man. But they have not read the book of Daniel. Because the book of Daniel defines who the Son of Man is. In chapter 7, verse 14, it's very clear that the Son of Man will come in the clouds and he'll have dominion. He'll be from everlasting to everlasting, have dominion over all tribes, peoples, nations, and tongues. It was concerned, if you look at the definition of the Son of Man in the book of Daniel, you will see that this is a divine claim. That anybody who called himself the Son of Man, not a Son of Man as you are, were all sons and daughters of men. The Son of Man, definite article, was always a divine title. That's why when Jesus claimed to be the Son of Man, in Mark chapter 16, there in the Sanhedrin, when the chief priest asked him, "Are you the Son of God? Are you the Messiah?" Jesus said, "I am." And then he went on to say, "And you shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds." He was claiming the divine title itself. And look at the reaction of the chief priest. He tore open his cloak and says, "We need no more proof. This man is preaching blasphemy." Now that's found in Matthew 26, it's also found in Mark 16, proving that Jesus was claiming probably the greatest title of divinity in calling himself the Son of Man. But you need the book of Daniel to support that. That's why I love the book of Daniel. And that's why I love the fact that the artifacts right here support not only that it is historical, but it also is even more historical than the historians like about it. That's why it's important that we do this kind of work. I hope you're getting excited. You better. But you would have probably walked right past and not even looked at that little drum, wouldn't you? It's insignificant. It's a puny little thing. Most people walk right past. You've got to stop and read the story behind it. Look and see how important this is to support and corroborate the authenticity of our Bible. Okay? Now we want to talk about the Hittites. Is that right? Thank you. Let's go over here because the Hittites